In this video, we're going to focus on how to convert a fraction into a decimal without using a calculator. A simple technique in which you can use is long division. So let's say if we want to convert 8 over 5 into a decimal. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the numerator on the inside and the denominator on the outside. So how many times does 5 go into 8? 5 goes into 8 one time. 5 times 1 is 5, and we need to subtract it. 8 minus 5 is 3. Now 5 doesn't go into 3, so we got to add a 0, which means we got to add a decimal point. Now how many times does 5 go into 30? 5 go into 30 exactly 3 times. 5 times 6 is 30. So the remainder is 0. So the answer is 1.6. That's how you can convert a fraction into a decimal. Now there are some ways you can do this without using long division. But before we get into another method, let's work on some examples. Use long division to convert 1 over 4 into a decimal. So the 4 is going to be on the outside. We're going to put a 1 on the inside. Now 4 goes into 1 0 times. So let's put a decimal point and let's add a 0. Now how many times does 4 go into 10? 4 goes into 10 2 times. 4 times 2 is 8. So 4 times 0.2 is 0.8. 10 minus 8 is 2. So 1 minus 0.8 is 0.2. So now we got to add a 0. How many times does 4 go into 20? 4 goes into 20 5 times. And the remainder is 0. So therefore 1/4 is 0.25 as a decimal. So let's go ahead and try another example. Let's try this one. 3 over 7. So we're going to put the 7 on the outside and the 3 on the inside. Now 7 goes into 3 0 times, so we got to add a 0. 7 goes into 30 4 times. 4 times 7 is 28. So 7 times 0.4 is 2.8. 30 minus 28 is 2. So let's add a 0. Now how many times does 7 go into 20? 7 goes into 20 2 times. 7 times 2 is 14. 20 minus 14 is 6. So let's add another 0. 7 goes into 60 at least 8 times. 7 times 8 is 56. So we have a remainder of 4. And if we add another 0, 7 goes into 40 5 times. 7 times 5 is 35. So we can round this answer and say it's 0.429. Because this appears to go on forever, so we need to round it. Now I'm going to show you another way to turn a fraction into a decimal. It's a fast technique, but you need to know some common values. For example, you need to know that 1 over 2 is 0.5 as a decimal. 1 over 3 is 0.33, or 0.3 repeated. 1 over 4 is 0.25. 1 over 5 is 0.2. 1 over 6 is 0.16 repeated, or you could say 0.167. 1 over 7 is 0.143. 1 over 8 is 0.125. 1 over 9 is 0.1 repeated, or 0.111. And 1 over 10 is exactly 0.1. So let's say if you want to convert 7 over 2 into a decimal. 7 over 2 is the same as 6 over 2 plus 1 over 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 1/2 is 0.5. So 7 over 2 is 3.5 as a decimal. So what you want to do is you want to break up the fraction into a whole number and a decimal, or a smaller fraction which you can convert to a decimal. And it saves you a lot of time if you do it that way. For example, Let's say if I have 10 over 3. 10 over 3 is the same as 9 over 3 plus 1 over 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3, and 1/3 we know it's about 0.333. So we could say the answer is about 3.33. What about this one? 11 over 4. How can we convert it into a decimal? Feel free to pause the video as you work on this example. So let's write it as 8 over 4 plus 3 over 4. 4 can go to 11 two times, so 4 times 2 is 8. 8 divided by 4 is 2, and 3/4 is the same as 3 times 1/4. Now let's replace 1/4 with 0.25. So it helps if you know some common values. 3 times 0.25 is the same as having 3/4, which is 75 cents. And 2 plus 0.75 gives us a final answer of 2.75. So 11 over 4 as a decimal is 2.75. Let's try another one. Convert 19 over 5 into a decimal. So we can write this as 15 over 5 plus 4 over 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3, and 4 over 5, we're going to write it as 4 times 1 over 5. Now 1 over 5 is 0.2. 4 times 2 is 8, so 4 times 0.2 is 0.8. And 3 plus 0.8 is 3.8. So 19 over 5 is 3.8 as a decimal. Now, what about, let's see, 14 over 6. How would you convert that into a decimal? So first, notice that we can reduce the fraction. We could divide the top and the bottom by 2. If you can reduce it, do that first. Half of 14 is 7. Half of 6 is 3. So this is 7 over 3, which we can write it as 6 over 3 plus 1 over 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2, and 1/3 is 0.33. So 14 divided by 6 is 2.33, or 2.3 repeated. Now what about, let's see, 35 over 8. Try that one. Take a minute, pause the video, and work out that problem. So we can break this down into 32 over 8 plus 3 over 8, since 32 plus 3 is 35. 32 divided by 8 is 4, and 3/8 is 3 times 1 over 8. Now what's 1 over 8 as a fraction? I mean, not as a fraction, but as a decimal. Do you remember the value for 1 over 8? 1 divided by 8 is 0.125. Now what is 3 times 0.125? Or what is 3 times 12.5? 3 times 12 is 36. 3 times 0.5 is 1.5. If you add 1.5 to 36, that's 37.5. So 3 times 0.125 is 0.375. If you add these two, you get a final answer of 4.375. Now let's use long division to confirm that answer. So how many times does 8 go into 35? 8 goes into 35 4 times. 8 times 4 is 32. 35 minus 2 is 3. 8 does not go into 3, so let's add a decimal. Let's bring down a 0. How many times does 8 go into 30? 8 goes into 30 3 times. 8 times 3 is 24. And 30 minus 24 is 6, so let's add a 0. How many times does 8 go into 60? 8 goes into 60 7 times, since 8 times 7 is 56. 60 minus 56 is 4. Add a 0. 8 goes into 45 times, and it's exactly 5, so the remainder is going to be 0. Therefore, it's 4.375. So if you ever get confused in terms of what the decimal value is or how to convert it to a decimal the easy way, always fall back to long division. Long division always works. Now let's say if you want to convert 7 3/5 into a decimal. How would you do it? How would you convert a mixed fraction into a decimal? 7 3/5 is the same as 7 plus 3 over 5, and that is a terrible 3. 3/5 is 3 times 1 over 5, and 1 over 5 is 0.2. So if 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 0.2 is 0.6. So the final answer is 7.6. That's equal to 7 3/5.